I'm not your enemy. Rome's buying an army with your jewels.
They cannot touch us!
You know nothing! Your lads are full of diamonds. He'll come back for them.
So here's the thing. Sony Pictures now owns the rights to Tarzan, and from the sounds of it, they're not just doing another remake. They're totally looking into reinventing the character and the entire story. Why? Well, it's probably because the original books by Edgar Rice Burroughs, written way back in the early 1900s, are full of stuff that doesn't sit well today. We're talking outdated racial and gender stereotypes and that whole white savior thing. That kind of storytelling just doesn't fly in modern cinema anymore. Because of that, Sony seems to want a fresh take, something that still honors the adventure and mystery of the jungle but strips away the old-school colonial baggage. And honestly, this could be a great opportunity to make Tarzan relevant again without dragging along all the problematic parts. And let's not forget, Tarzan is actually one of the most adapted characters in pop culture history. His story first came out in print in 1912, and then just a few years later, it was already hitting the big screen. There were a bunch of silent films, then the old-school serials, and later tons of adaptations through the 60s and 80s. Most people today probably know him best from Disney's 1999 animated movie, which was a massive hit. That version really introduced Tarzan to a new generation, and did well at the box office too, something like $480 million globally. It even spawned a Broadway show and a couple of sequels, so clearly the story still has appeal if it's handled the right way. Now here's where it gets interesting. There's a rumor floating around that Christopher Nolan might be involved as a potential director for this new Tarzan film. Nothing's been confirmed, but if it turns out to be true, that would totally change the game. Nolan's known for deep, complex stories and intense character development. He could take the idea of Tarzan, this wild man caught between two worlds, and explore it in a way we've never seen before. Think about how he redefined Batman. He didn't just make superhero movies, he turned them into psychological thrillers with real emotional weight. So, if he took on Tarzan, we could be looking at a very layered, serious version of the character, maybe something darker and grounded. But casting is going to be a big deal for this reboot too. If Sony wants to attract a wide audience while also modernizing the story, they'll need a lead who's not only physically capable, but can also bring emotional complexity to the role. Someone who can sell the inner conflict of Tarzan, because let's be honest, this guy's entire identity is about being torn between nature and civilization, instinct and reason. A bunch of names come to mind, but one strong contender for Tarzan could be Michael B. Jordan. He's got the physicality, sure, but more importantly, he brings a lot of emotional range. Just look at his work in Creed or Fruitvale Station. He can play vulnerable and intense, which is exactly what Tarzan needs. And casting Jordan would also help break away from the old whitewashed image of Tarzan and make the story feel more inclusive and current. It could open up new ways of looking at the character and his origins without repeating outdated tropes. If they want to go a bit younger and emphasize the idea of Tarzan being caught between two worlds in his youth, someone like Jacob Elordi from Euphoria and Priscilla could also work. He's got that tall, lean, jungle-swinging kind of look, and he's proven he can handle intense, emotionally complicated stories. Or if Sony decides to really lean into the reinvention and give the role a fresh spin, Jaden Smith could be an unexpected but interesting choice. He's been training in martial arts for years, and his vibe is very modern and unconventional. That kind of energy could help completely reframe Tarzan as more than just a wild man in a loincloth. Then there's Jane Porter, Tarzan's longtime love interest, and probably one of the most important characters in this story, especially in a reboot. Traditionally, she's been portrayed as this prim, proper woman from civilization who kind of tames Tarzan with her influence. But if this new version wants to update the dynamic, Jane has to be more than just a romantic subplot. She should be smart, independent, and maybe even physically capable in her own right. Someone who challenges Tarzan and forces him to think differently about both the jungle and the human world. So who could play her? Someone like Florence Pugh would be a great pick. She's already proven she can handle action and drama, and she's got this grounded, intelligent energy that would make Jane feel like a real partner to Tarzan, not just someone who needs rescuing. Or there's Lily James, who has both the elegance and the toughness you'd want in a modern Jane. If Sony wants to go a little edgier, maybe Zoe Kravitz. She'd bring a lot of presence and would totally flip the traditional idea of who Jane is supposed to be. Now, just to give a little background, Tarzan, or John Clayton Viscount Greystoke, is the son of British aristocrats who get stranded in the African jungle thanks to a mutiny. His parents don't survive long. His father is killed by a big ape, and his mother dies shortly after. He's then raised by a tribe of apes called the Mangani, and one of them, Kala, becomes his mother figure. So from the start, Tarzan is growing up in a wild, survivalist environment, and that shapes everything about him. He learns to climb, swing, and fight. His abilities are off the charts compared to normal humans. He's basically got the strength and reflexes of the animals around him, plus he learns to communicate with them. Later on, he finds a cabin that belonged to his parents and teaches himself how to read from children's books left behind. That's how he learns about the outside world, and eventually realizes he's not like the others. Eventually, Tarzan meets Jane, who's marooned in the same jungle area along with her father and a few others. They fall in love, and in the sequel, The Return of Tarzan, they get married and move to England for a while. But Tarzan never really fits into civilization. He sees through its hypocrisies and decides to go back to the jungle. They set up a home in British East Africa, and that becomes the base for many of Tarzan's adventures moving forward. They even have a son, Jack, who takes on the ape name Kerchak, which means the killer. One interesting twist from the books is that Tarzan and Jane eventually gain immortality by taking special pills from a mysterious tribe. That detail might sound a little out there, but if Nolan, or whoever ends up directing, wants to bring in a more mythical or fantasy vibe, it could totally work. Think of it as Inception meets The Jungle Book, wild but kind of intriguing. Physically, Tarzan is a beast. He's stronger, faster, and more agile than pretty much anyone else. He wrestles tigers, crocodiles, lions, you name it. He can swing through trees like it's nothing and even uses his feet like hands. But he's not just brawn. In the books, he's also super smart and well-read. He's fluent in a bunch of languages: English, French, Latin, Greek, Swahili, and even animal languages. He learns new ones quickly, and he understands the jungle and all its creatures in a way most people never could. So, taking all that into account, a modern Tarzan movie could be a really unique blend of high-stakes action, deep character drama, and even a little sci-fi or myth, depending on where they take the story. If Nolan really is involved, expect something mind-bending or time-jumping. And even if he isn't, the right director could still reinvent the character for a generation that wants more out of its heroes than just swinging on vines. At the end of the day, this reboot has a lot of potential, not just to reintroduce an iconic character, but to completely reshape what he stands for. And if Sony gets the cast and crew right, this could easily become the next big franchise, especially if it's smart, diverse, and thrilling enough to stand out from all the other reboots out there. Let's just hope they take the risk and go bold with it, because Tarzan deserves more than just another trip through the trees. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.